recording the webinar today as well. So if any of you would like a copy of it afterwards, please feel free to reach out to either one of the presenters today and or any representative from either of the companies that are going to be presenting. So with all the housekeeping stuff out of the way, my name is Mark McDermott. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for Visual SP. I've been on board Visual SP for, I guess we're coming up about a year now, but I've been working in the Microsoft / SharePoint and Office ecosystem for quite some period of time. I've worked for a couple of other prominent ISVs, so if any of you are familiar with my name or face, you may have run into me at any one of the SharePoint conferences or Ignite or something like that over the years. So appreciate everyone being here. With me is Rebecca from Total Solutions, and Rebecca, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Rebecca. Like Mark said, I am with Total Solutions. I've been a member of the Total Solutions team here for a little bit over 3 years. I've been working kind of as a SharePoint admin as well as doing some strategic consulting, focusing on making sure we gather proper requirements from our clients and implement simple solutions for them, both with SharePoint Online as well as other SharePoint platforms and other business applications. Just to give you guys a little bit of an overview as Total Solutions as a company, we are a SharePoint and Office 365 consulting company headquartered in Brighton, Michigan, just outside of Detroit for those of you who are not local to the area. We have been working in IT for over 20 years, and we've focused primarily on SharePoint for the last 12 or so years. We do everything on SharePoint from doing migrations, Power BI implementations, dashboards, workflows, as well as integrating custom applications with SharePoint. And those are just an example of a few of our clients as well. So on to why we are here today. We are all aware that Microsoft rolls out changes in Office 365 very rapidly. And just to give you some idea of that, just between May and mid-September, here's a list of what Microsoft has implemented as far as here's what the key changes we've made recently. I mean, you can see that this is quite a long list, and as you read into some of the details, it isn't specific changes. They're giving you kind of a broad overview of we've updated the user experience for libraries, lists, and pages within SharePoint and what that actually means. So today we're going to talk about how these disruptions to your intranet environment affect your users, what some of these disruptions are, as well as how to mitigate some of those changes. So we're going to talk about how Office 365 isn't just about SharePoint anymore. It includes all the other apps that Microsoft offers, and how it integrates those with new features such as Office 365 groups. We also need to talk about some of the changes to how users navigate around SharePoint, as well as some of the changes to the SharePoint user interface itself. And then Mark is going to jump in and give you guys a little demo of Visual SP and talk about how that can help mitigate some of these changes. Just to get an idea of who I'm talking to out there today, what versions of SharePoint are you guys kind of working off of? Are you online yet? Are you on some of the older versions of SharePoint on-prem?
All right, and I've launched the poll on my end. So for all of you attending, if you could go to your screens and just select which one is the most relevant for you. So what version of SharePoint are you using currently? So we have SharePoint on-prem 2007 or 2010, SharePoint on-prem 2013, on-prem 2016, a hybrid solution, or SharePoint Online or Office 365. I'll leave the poll open for just a few more seconds. Got about 80% of you that have voted at this point. Okay. Going to go ahead and close the poll in just a second. Got 85% of people voting. I appreciate that. That's a good voter turnout. Hopefully we can get that in the November election, right? All right. Let's share the results. Rebecca, I don't know if you can see this on your end, but it looks like the results are in, and 27% of you have SharePoint on-prem, either 2007 or 2010. Another 27% of you have 2013, only 2% with 2016, 9% with a hybrid, and 35% with either SharePoint Online and or Office 365.
All right. So that sounds like pretty good breakup here of the different pieces of, or different versions of SharePoint that you guys are using currently. And why I wanted to ask this question was basically to get some idea of what of these features that I'm about to go through and talk about you guys are actually have available now or have some experience. So one of the things that we've noticed with Office 365 is that it's no longer about whether companies are going to implement Office 365 anymore. It's more often has come down to a questions of which parts of Office 365 they're going to implement, in what order, and how that implementation is going to occur. And this is really because Office 365 is no longer is not just a standalone app of any particular kind. It's actually a suite of standalone cloud services that Microsoft is kind of evolving into that unified platform to deliver all of their collaboration, communication, content, and social offerings. So when we talk about SharePoint Online now, we're not talking about just SharePoint itself, which of course in Office 365 comes as both SharePoint and the video sharing option. But we're also talking about integrating that with the Exchange apps that are available, your standard Office apps for working on documents and collaborating. You also have your Office 365 apps like Delve and Planner and Yammer and Sway that you're getting as part of this. Depending on your licensing, there's also other Microsoft apps that might be integrated as part of this solution. And depending on if you have the capabilities turned on in your environment, you are also potentially getting some of these preview apps. And one of the key features of Office 365 today, or key questions that companies are asking themselves, is how do we use all of these things together and integrate them all into a cohesive environment for our users? And Microsoft's kind of started to go forward with that with Office 365 groups. And those are kind of the next big feature, one of the most important changes that Microsoft has put out recently. So how many of you have used Office 365 groups or are currently using them, or have at least had a chance to test and see what they're capable of? Mark, can you launch that poll for us?
Actually, I apologize. I did not create a poll for this one. I have the next one I have is how do you navigate through SharePoint, so I missed this one. But what we can do is we can have folks enter their answers in the questions. Won't be quite as scientific, so we've got 1 no and 2 yeses so far.
All right. So I'll leave that up, give you guys a few minutes to answer those. Mark, if you can just keep me posted on those as they come in.
Yeah, we're kind of split on, actually no, we're heavier on no's and a few unavailable.
Okay. So most of you guys, at least sounds like the majority of you, have not necessarily seen what Office 365 groups are yet or what they're capable of. So that's good. So let's talk a little bit about what Office 365 groups are. Office 365 groups is basically a list of users that have, similar to a distribution list, that are working on the same project or team. Now, behind the scenes, this is a SharePoint team site collection, but it does so much more than just that. You're also getting integration with Outlook, with a group mailbox, and not just a site mailbox that you typically have with a SharePoint team site now, but actually full integration with Exchange features and functionality. The same is true with the calendar as well. So you're starting to pull in all these different apps that Microsoft has available into one cohesive unit for your users to actually work as a whole. So there are lots of great things about Office 365 groups, and I want to touch on a couple of the top reasons why your users are going to want these groups. Now, Office 365 groups are going to incorporate both a group mailbox, a team site, a OneNote, a planner, and a calendar. And the identity and permissions management for this is going to actually be at the group level as a whole. So the membership is shared across all resources, giving your users that same, or giving you that easy permissions management for the group as a single entity. In addition, you're going to get that ability to work as a collaborative unit across multiple different devices in the office or remotely. So the new modern team site collections that are associated with each of these groups are using the modern team site page, which is the modern UI we're going to talk about a little bit later, modern lists and libraries as well. And so all of these are already pre-built for mobile. In addition, your users are going to get to work the way they like. So to navigate to these groups, you can go through your Outlook client, you can go through the web app, you can go through your phone app, and have all these different ways in which to access groups and work within your Office 365 group. You're also getting this shared calendar that's actually not a SharePoint Online calendar. It is a full Exchange calendar with those same capabilities that you experience with your personal calendar in Outlook. I know this is one of the big complaints that a lot of people have with SharePoint calendars, and this is helping to kind of mitigate some of that. Every document within the group is actually going to be uploaded into the group shared document library. So again, your group, anyone in the group itself is going to have access to this document library, and they're going to have access to the same level of permissions, because again, the group as a whole is being given permissions to this team site rather than individual users. In addition, with integrating other solutions such as Planner, again depending on your licenses, you're going to be able to have a nice, easy task and activity tracking specific to the group itself. And the group can actually receive notifications for those when tasks are assigned, due, updated, and such. You can also actually invite users from outside of the organization into the Office 365 group. And one of the nice features is everywhere across the group user interface right now, when you do have external users, it's going to give you those visual cues, allowing your team to know that there are external users in the group and that they're going to be getting these conversations that go through the email thread. Or they're going to also be available to see these documents that you're uploading to the SharePoint site. So within that within the group mailbox, you're actually able to do things like @ or hashtag either to groups or individual members. That's going to be able to give them that more direct attention that might be needed. So rather than sending an email out to all staff, I might want all staff to get this email, but I might want a specific user to be sure that they pay attention to it, and I'm going to be able to @ that user or @ that group. And again, another important feature here, connecting to the services. In today's business world, pretty much every workflow or every business process is going to touch multiple systems, not just one system. And Office 365 groups allow you to actually have connectors that are able to pull content and update content from other applications that you use frequently. This can include Twitter, which is obviously social. I'm not a big proponent of that within the workplace myself, but things like Wunderlist or Trello that you might use or you might prefer as your working interface over some of the other features that some of the other solutions that your company might offer. And finally, you're also going to be able to connect your organization with all of this knowledge. So now when you search, you're actually going to be searching across all the groups that you're a member of, as well as all public groups that maybe you're not a member of, but that are public to your organization. So this is going to cut down on the time it takes for you to actually access information or find information relevant to you based off the group you're working with, as well as how you, or the group you're working with, as well as the recent activity for yourself. And this is really important, and all of this integration is going to be really important because users are going to start wanting these Office 360 groups kind of regardless of whether you really want them to use them. And that kind of leads me into my next thing, is that with these new groups and the new team sites and all these new features, there's a lot of different ways to navigate through SharePoint Online. And currently, how do you guys typically direct your users through the SharePoint experience? How do you navigate through your current SharePoint? Because before, typically or oftentimes, people are kind of guiding their users using the navigation at the top of their home page or that global navigation. Whereas now, because there are so many different ways to navigate within and amongst the SharePoint apps, as well as all the other apps in Office 365, there are certainly some new options here.
Did you want me to, are you ready for me to launch this poll?
Yes.
All right. So for the attendees, you should see the poll on your screen. And again, if you'd respond with the appropriate response, we'll leave the poll open here just for a few, probably about 20 more seconds.
And I do realize that for some of you, the SharePoint homepage and app launcher may or may not be available. Obviously, those are both online features. So if your homepage is your landing page that has your global navigation on it, go ahead and select global navigation on that one.
We'll give this just another few seconds. We've got 78% of you that have voted. Okay, it looks like it's slowed down. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. And let me share out the results. So how do you navigate through SharePoint? We have 53% of you said global navigation, 7% said search, 3% said app launcher, and 37% said the SharePoint homepage.
All right. So yeah, global navigation is certainly the most common way that we are directing our users to navigate around our current SharePoint environments. And certainly some of these other features are not available if you are in some of the older versions. Now, with Office 365, we're actually able to have multiple ways to navigate around SharePoint. Here we're showing the app launcher. These are actually tiles that start out of the box as the tiles for your various Office 365 apps that are available. And then organizations can actually go in and add links for new tiles to be, whether they're links, they can be links to outside business applications your users might use. They can be just URLs that you frequent. But the organization is actually able to publish these for users to add to their app launcher. And as you can see here, users are able to manipulate that app launcher to the way that works best for them. So they can put the tiles that they use frequently or the apps that they go to frequently up at the top, make them bigger, and make it more intuitive to the way that they work. You also have the new SharePoint homepage, and this is going to be your user's typical gateway into SharePoint. And the goal here is to make it easy to navigate across the entire intranet, even if that is going across site collections or into Office 365 groups. On the SharePoint homepage, you do actually get a nice little search bar up at the top. If you are able to create new sites, you can do so from this homepage as well. But more importantly, you have the list of sites that you're following, recent sites that you've visited, as well as SharePoint's recommendation of sites, suggested sites for you, or frequently visited sites. And these are going to be using the Office Graph capabilities that you get as part of Office 365 to help make your intranet more intelligent. You're also able to set a list of featured links at the organization level to force those down onto users to have as quick links here. Along those lines of the new SharePoint homepage, you also do have a lot of new modern user interfaces in SharePoint. The first one we're going to talk about is the new modern page. And one of the big changes for these is that these are designed to work really well for mobile. The page is going to look very similar regardless of if your user is accessing it through the SharePoint app on their phone, through the web browser, or potentially if it's a group, through the Groups app on their phone as well. You also have inline responsive page authoring. So you're able to actually edit inline the pages and see how that's going to affect your page as you go. Out of the box, the home page tends to come with a quick links up at the top, an activity feed that's actually tracking the most recent changes to the site collection, whether that's documents uploaded or items added to a list. But you're also able to add additional web parts to those pages. Now, there are only a few of these web parts currently built out, but they're working on building out more, and they have actually launched the new SharePoint framework on which you can build fully custom web parts and apps as well. In addition to the team site homepage that you saw there, you do have also a modern user interface for the document libraries. And what they've actually done here is they've removed the ribbon as a whole and replaced it with a command bar. This command bar is actually going to display up here tasks that are kind of based off of your common activities or common tasks on this page, again using that Microsoft Graphs to gather some of that data. And this is going to be a big change for your users and just in understanding where to find things and how to do the things that they're used to doing in a document library. You're also in these document libraries able to actually pin documents to the top of the library itself. So this means that now you don't have to go search for that document sitting way at the bottom of page 5 because you want it to always be here at the top. You're also able to add links to documents. So rather than a move to or a copy to function, you can actually link directly to another document and still pull in both the thumbnail of that document and the document metadata, of course, if it is a document that is able to show a thumbnail. So those are, of course, only for the kind of native files that SharePoint is able to do that with. So in this view of the document library, you can again see that we have the kind of tile view. Those document libraries you can also kind of still look at in the list view. And some of the nice features here, you're now able to actually update the metadata on the documents or items within a list or library right here on an information panel. You can also do some of your sorting and grouping and filtering directly on the page as well as adjust column sizes and such, and then save that view to make it available to others. So you don't actually have to go and configure the view and then come back and check and see how it looks. You can do it right here in the page. Now this is also going to affect how it's viewed for mobile. So all of these are going to be affected across the board. Now this does not mean that you aren't still getting all of your authentic SharePoint pieces such as content types, check-in, check-out, versioning, records management workflows. Those are all still going to be a part of this. Just a little bit different of how it looks. One of the big features here actually that I like to touch on that isn't really about the look or the user interface, it's actually about the metadata and required metadata for documents. I know many times if we upload a document that has a required piece of metadata that we don't fill out, that document is checked out and actually isn't viewable to anyone. SharePoint's actually gone and changed that, or Microsoft has gone and changed that within SharePoint, so that now if it's missing required metadata, the document isn't hidden. It's just marked as missing some of that required metadata. Here you can see you can actually group items from the view here itself, not have to go in to change the view settings. And once you do that, you can actually drag and drop items from one group to another, and it'll actually update the metadata on the item itself. Again, these are a lot of changes that you're seeing in SharePoint as they come across, and it's really hard to make sure your users are both aware of all these changes as well as able to adjust and work accordingly based on these changes. So you also have the new interface for the SharePoint lists. You're going to see it looks very similar to document libraries, and you're getting a lot of those same updates and functionality. You can view and edit details in the information panel. You're actually able to support, in the future, it's still in release right now, the SharePoint themes and branding styles that come across on current SharePoint sites. Don't work in the modern UI quite yet, but they are launching those as well as changes you'll be able to make through the new SharePoint framework. Now, any customizations that you might have with these lists, libraries, this new user interface, the good side is that if the new user interface can't work for some reason with those custom interfaces or custom solutions, it is going to revert back to the classic interface by default. So with all of these changes and all the vast ways that Microsoft is pushing out these changes and affecting users across multiple environments, the challenge is no longer really what parts of Office 365 you're going to release to your users, but more about how you prevent users from stumbling over these new technologies and how you correctly and efficiently support them both in learning the technologies and implementing these technologies. Now, we do have Total Solutions has a Service Hub portal to help on the implementation side, but Visual SP is really the kind of lead on the training side. So I'm going to switch it over to Mark and let him give you a live demo here of Visual SP.
All right, give me just a second to take this screen control away from you. All right. So I've got just a few slides that I want to cover with everybody, and then we'll jump into the demonstration. So as Rebecca mentioned, migrations or upgrades or changing technology platforms can be a big challenge for a lot of organizations in the sense that you're going to be releasing new technologies to, in some cases, thousands and thousands of people. And so this can create a lot of challenges in organizations. So we've created a solution. It's actually been in market now for a number of years to help with user adoption and to help your company get the most ROI possible out of their Microsoft investment. But just quickly, a bit of background on Visual SP. We were founded in 2005 by a gentleman named Asif Rahmani, which if any of you have done any training, any SharePoint training, you may very well have sat through one of his sessions or one of his training webinars or seminars. What Asif noticed was a long time ago was that there was a disconnect between in-classroom-based training or online-based training and actually using the technology in the workplace. And I'll get back to that in just a second. But as you can see, we've been around long enough that we've got training solutions for 2010, 2013, and just earlier this week we released our SharePoint 2016, so Visual SP Online Help. So it's actually in the environment of 2016 or any one of these flavors of SharePoint that we're offering here, and then also SharePoint Online. So what we're going to be talking about today, or what I'm going to be demonstrating today, is actually our Office 365 help solution, which is yet to be released, but will be released in the very near future. I just wanted to give you a little bit of context of our product history. So why do we do what we do? I mentioned that one of the things that we found was that there was a disconnect between what was happening in the classroom and then once users got to their actual work experience. The big challenge, and this is true with almost any type of classroom or online-based training, is that memory retention is an issue. So about 70% of what you learned is lost within 2 days of that training. So that means your users are going to these training courses, whether they're online or in person, and forgetting what it was that they learned, which doesn't mean they're bad people. It's just a human experience. And so what we found is that if we can provide users with the support that they need in their moment of need, then they can master their tasks much more quickly. So I've got a poll, and that is, I'm curious to know from everyone in attendance today, how do your users get help in SharePoint and or Office 365? So I'm going to be launching the poll just now. So if you could go and select the answer most appropriate for your organization. So how do your users get help in SharePoint and or Office 365? First answer being the Microsoft Help, which is the little question mark that appears in the upper right-hand corner of most Microsoft applications. Google and or YouTube and or something online search of some sort. The IT help desk, that's always a fun one, right? That usually costs lots of time and money. A colleague or not sure. And I'll keep the poll open for just a few more seconds. We've got about 72% of you that have voted. Okay, I'll go ahead and close this out. And let's share the results. Interesting. I run this poll pretty frequently, and the results are usually similar. But I'm a little bit surprised in this one that not more users are using the Microsoft Help. Google and YouTube is at 19%. IT Help Desk at 53%. By the way, a little commercial to drive you to our website. We've recently released an ROI calculator for companies that spend money on SharePoint training or Office 365 training, and the impacts of that on the IT help desk, et cetera. So it's an interesting way to see how much your users needing help in context can help save your company money. 13% is a colleague and 9% not sure. So this is exactly the problem that we're solving for, is we want to get people the help that they need where they need it. So as I mentioned, our legacy as a company has been in SharePoint training and then transitioning from SharePoint training into a SharePoint training app, the Visual SP training app for all the flavors of SharePoint. And so what's next for us is Visual SP Help for Office 365. And again, this is going to be an in-context help tool so that your users will get the help that they need inside of their work experience. And the whole goal here is to improve user adoption via just-in-time learning. So when we talk about in-context training, that to us means they're getting it, again, at that moment of need. And so unlike training sessions, these online tools are available to your users in their actual work experience or in their workflow. And they'll have on-demand, searchable access to only the training that they actually need. And I think that that's for those of you that have used the Microsoft Help, that's one of the biggest complaints that we hear, is that the Microsoft Help, while the content is great, there's so much of it, the user actually has to know what they're looking for in order to be able to find it. The way that our product works is we're only serving up the help content relevant to the actual page that they're on, and we'll show you that in just a second here. And so you might be wondering, where does this content come from? Well, a lot of it comes from us. We've been at the training game for an awfully long time, over 10 years. But we also have an expert panel of content curators. So you can see a lot of these folks on our website as well. It's a veritable who's who of the Office 365 and SharePoint ecosystem. Also, you'll note that we've got a long-standing relationship with Nintex. In full disclosure, I mentioned that I used to work for another SharePoint ISV. I was one of the very first employees of Nintex. So spent a lot of years there, and we've done a lot of Nintex training over the years. So we have a bunch of Nintex content embedded as well. And then through our partner ecosystem with partners like Total Solutions, a lot more content can be custom created and added into your environment depending on what apps you use or what customizations you have. And Total Solutions is a great company to help you out with some of that. But the key for us is that we're delivering micro content. So what does that mean? These micro content to us is small bite-sized chunks of training. The challenge with classroom-based training or a seminar or webinar or something like that is they're going to dump a bunch of information into your brain. Some of it's not going to be relevant, and you're going to have an issue remembering most of it. So all of our content is made to be consumed very quickly. Our videos, for the most part, are 2 minutes or less. We have tip sheets, quick reference cards, annotated screenshots, and something new with our Visual SP Help for Office 365 are tours. These are actual walkthroughs that will take your users step by step through the tasks that they need to complete. So with that, let me close out of this and go over to my VM, where we've got an instance of Office 365 running. Hopefully, Rebecca, if I can check in with you, can you see my VM okay?
Yep, I can see it just fine.
Excellent, great. Oh, we'll refresh there. So what I've done is I've already opened up a few of the different tiles that Rebecca covered for you just a little bit later, just a little bit earlier. And so I wanted to give you some samples of the various ways that our product interacts with the Office 365 interface. The very first thing I'm going to do, we use OneDrive a lot internally at our company. And this is a feature that, for those of you that are paying close attention to what Microsoft is doing, they're really driving this. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, Rebecca, but I do believe that OneDrive is included in all license categories of Office 365. So this is a big deal for Microsoft, and it's going to be a new thing for a lot of users, especially folks that haven't been on Office 365 yet. So you see, it's the normal interface experience. What you might notice here is that we've got the Visual SP logo over here on the right-hand side. And then just as a frame of reference, we've got, you can go certainly get the Microsoft help here. I guess it's an I instead of a question mark. But in any event, I mentioned that what we're doing is providing context-sensitive training information in the actual uh, web surface there. So as we're inside of Office 365, and for OneDrive, it's fairly simple. So we don't have tons and tons of content, but we're always adding to it. So you can see the various types of content that we have here. So, for example, this happens to be a video that just walks you through how to drag and drop content into OneDrive. Sorry, my VM is running a little bit slow. And as you can see, very, very short video. This happens to be pulling from YouTube. So some of the content is Visual SP created. Some of the content we're actually repurposing from Microsoft. As I mentioned, Microsoft has a bunch of fantastic content and in their help file. So a lot of times we just point to that, and where we feel like there's stuff that's missing, well, we just add to it, and that's one of the things that our partners do as well. Next, we'll go over to SharePoint, which is near and dear to our hearts here because this is where we've been working for so long. It looks like we're refreshing the page here. Sorry, my VM's been sitting idle while we've been on this meeting, so it's running a little bit slow here. But as you'll see again, we've got the Visual SP help logo over here on the right-hand side. By the way, this logo, that's customizable. So if you want to put your own company logo or put something else there that might make more sense to your users or what have you, you can absolutely do that. Total Solutions would be equipped to help you in that endeavor as well. What I'm going to do is I'm just clicking on this HR resources site here, and in just a second you'll see our help tab will pop up again. But what I want to do is go to this document library, and here we've got lots of stuff going on. So as far as the Visual SP content is concerned, and I apologize, this is taking so long to load. Trust me, this is not a Microsoft issue. This is my VM issue, so I apologize about how long this is taking. So just waiting for the Visual SP icon to populate here. Oh, there we go. So once that opens up, you can see that we've got lots of different content. And by the way, this is also searchable based on the content that's on the page. So if we want to create a document, we've got a number of different ways that we can show you how to do that. So I'm just going to pull this up. So this is a quick tip sheet. So it'll show you when it opens. So we've got a PDF here that is created by Visual SP, and it'll walk you through the actual process. The other thing I wanted to mention, I mentioned our relationship with Nintex before. So we do have some of the Nintex content built right in here. So if you're using a third-party tool like Nintex, that can be added in as well. And then let's see, what was the other thing I wanted to show you was just one of our quick help files. I think this one's I can't remember if this is ours or Microsoft's. And again, I apologize about the dice. Oh, this is actually Microsoft's content. So again, we repurpose a lot of the stuff that they have. We just make it easier to search. So you can see there's lots of content here for you to walk through. Everything you're seeing when it pops up is popping up right inside of their work environment. So the user never has to leave their work environment to get the help that they need. So one of the things I mentioned was that we also have what we call tours. So when this page reloads here, let me show you how tours works. And this is something that we're really excited about because it's the most basic way of helping your users through their work. And that is by step-by-step instructions here. So we're going to do the homepage tour, and granted, we're just using Outlook here as an example, which is pretty simple. Hopefully, most of you know how to use your email. But we'll have tours built for a lot of the functionality all across the Office 365 environment. And the other thing that's important to point out is, again, this is customizable. So you'll be able to work with companies like Total Solutions to build custom tours for your users. Another way to think about this, if you remember back to our poll, it was 50-something% of you responded that the IT help desk is the repository of all knowledge for Office 365 and SharePoint across your organizations. One of the things that we recommend you do is to look at what that help desk queue looks like, so you know what help content either needs to be created or put very much in front and center of your users to help decrease those. So one of the things you can do is triage your help desk and create new tours or create new help content so your users are getting what they need out of the tools that you're providing to them. So I'm going to go ahead, I selected the email just as it said, and you can see that it's highlighting the reading pane, and it's literally taking me step by step through this work process in Mail. And again, we're going to have content like this all across the environment. No limit to the number of steps or anything like that, but just to give you kind of a flavor of how that works. Finally, again, just to kind of show you another view of Visual SP. Sorry, this is reloading again. So we've got the different types of content that we mentioned, the tip sheets, the videos, and again, most of the videos are less than 2 minutes. So here, we'll be able to, for those of you that are going to use Yammer or any of these other tools, we have a lot of content that, like completing your Yammer profile, which is a video, how to create groups. And again, we can go in and we can search the content that's relevant to what we're seeing here in Office 365. By the way, for those of you paying close attention, I happen to be using Chrome. So I could have been using IE or Firefox. Right now, we've primarily built for the Windows platform, which is why I'm operating inside of this VM. As far as the browsers are concerned, but it works and looks and acts the same regardless of the browser type that you're using. So that's kind of a high-level overview of the app for Office 365. Just again, to reiterate, we do have this for all versions of SharePoint past 2010, so 2010, 2013, 2016, all on-prem, and certainly SharePoint Online. We showed you a little bit of that today. And then what we spent most of our time on was the Visual SP Help app for Office 365. So we're really, really excited about this. Again, I think it's really important to underscore the fact that the user adoption and the ROI, it can be dramatically impacted by giving your users the help that they need at the moment of need or just in time. And when you're working with companies like Total Solutions that are building out custom content or customizations in your environments, we can adopt and create custom help content that will be rendered in the user interface at the moment of need. So with that, I think we have a number of questions. So I wanted to switch over to the question panel here. And Rebecca, if you're still muted, you may want to unmute. because I think some of these are going to be probably just as much for you. Let's see. Let me go back up a little bit. So this is going back to earlier in the conversation. We've got someone asking, is it possible to define the visitor, member, and owner group levels like on-premises permission groups?
No, so with Office 365 groups, you can control who is a member versus who is a guest of the group, and that just means who is an internal member versus an external user as a guest. But once you're granting permissions, it's actually granting permissions to the group name as a whole, so you can't actually break people out without breaking inheritance on stuff within the site collection.
Okay. And then the next question was, is groups driven by email? What about feeds?
Feeds for like DMer feeds and conversations.
I'm not
Those,
sure.
yeah, so those are gonna, Yammer is actually in process of being integrated into the conversations portion of the Office 365 group. So that the conversations portion right now includes all emails going through the group as well as notifications about task assignments and stuff. That is soon to be integrated with a Yammer group as well.
Okay. Let's see. Longer question. I still don't understand why I would use a group instead of a SharePoint Online team site. Seems so similar. I don't know if two small differences in calendar and mail. I guess that's not a question, it's a statement. Sorry. Two small differences. So are those the differences, though, calendar and mail between online team site and a group?
Those are certainly some of the differences. The integration with things like Planner and some of the other features is also, it's really about the integration piece, right? Yammer's going to, or I'm sorry, Office 365 Groups is going to give you all of that tied together in one. Whereas if you were to create a SharePoint team site, you would actually now have multiple places to manage the members of the team site, what content is on the team site, as well as maybe or maybe not integrating with some of those other apps. For example, Planner right now, you can't actually integrate with a team site, but you can integrate with an Office 365 group.
Okay. All right. Can apps be controlled by groups? That wasn't the one I... Yeah.
Apps as far, which apps are available to the group can be controlled a little bit by the group itself, a little bit more on the app. So if you are granting, adding an app to your group's team site collection, assuming that the organization has granted you the ability to do that, then you wouldn't have any problems. You can't, for example, force an app down onto the group sites. I'm not sure I'm answering the question that's being asked there, but I think I covered it.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't have more context there. It was a short and sweet question.
Certainly feel free, if I'm not answering these as well, feel free to shoot me an email, and we can answer them in more depth one-on-one for sure.
Okay. Next question. You didn't mention the new integration between groups and team sites. Do you know if there's a single document library supporting both, or are the libraries separate? And what does this mean for document management? For example, versions, metadata, content types, etc.
Yep. So when an Office 365 group is created, it actually creates behind the scenes a SharePoint team site collection. That site collection is hidden from SharePoint admin portal. But it is there, and within that site collection you have a document library that is the shared documents for the group as a whole.
Okay. All right. Oh, yeah. So now it's shifting over to some questions for me. First question for me, or for Visual SP, is can you dock the icon elsewhere? The answer is yes, as long as you don't mind that it's being docked on the right-hand side of the page. In fact, let me go back to my screen and show you that. I think I forgot to show that. So yes, depending on what content is being surfaced, for example, someone might have their help icon down here, and it gets kind of in the way of Yammer, um, the Yammer people feed. So you can, yes, you can slide it up and down. It does have to be currently at this point on the right-hand side of the page. If you have feedback on that, would love to hear that. We put it on the right because that's typically where help goes. And then we also got feedback from users that was the preference, as long as we could make it movable. But if you do have some additional feedback on that, feel free to follow up with us. Next question is, what about multilingual content? Great question. So currently, from what we ship directly from Visual SP, it is English content. That being said, we do have partners around the globe that can offer translation services and or build custom created content in whatever native language you want. So the tools itself, just like Office 365, will support, virtually any language, but the actual content itself would have to be created by someone else, at least at this point. We do have plans for language packs and further releases, but right now it's everything is being built in English. Next question / comment is, I love tours. Can I build my own? Yes. When the product is released, which we're hoping is in the next several weeks, there will be the ability to build tours on your own. And we're designing it in such a way that it'll be probably more complicated than what your average end user could build, but if you're a power user, you could build it. And then that's also something that we lean heavily on our partners to help us with, is building custom tours. But yes, that's absolutely a part of the product and something that we're really excited about. This is a great question. How will you keep the Visual SP Office 365 help up to date given the rapid rate of change by Microsoft? And it says automatic content updates. Yes. So we, because of our relationship with Microsoft, as well as the relationship of a lot of our content creators with Microsoft, will know prior to the content or product updates being released. So in many cases, we won't be able to ship the updates exactly at the same time that they're released, but we will be tracking all the updates that are coming out, and we'll post when the updates will be coming out from us. Generally speaking, you can expect our updates to be within a few days of the Microsoft updates. And yes, they will be automatic. So any of the content that we provide, so meaning the non-custom content, those are served on our Azure servers. And so when we update our server based on your subscription, you'll automatically have the latest and greatest up-to-date help artifacts for all your users. Another good question, I actually use WalkMe and Visual SP. Our tour is coming to Visual SP on-prem. So for those of you not familiar with WalkMe, WalkMe is a product that you can build tours like ours for a lot of different applications. And so the answer to that is, currently we are only supporting the custom tours online, but one of the things that we always work towards is parity for our products across all of our offerings. So we will have that functionality on-prem. I wish I could tell you when. I don't know the answer to that. Let's see. Someone was asking when it'll be available. Hopefully within a few weeks. We'd actually, to make some enhancements to it, pushed our release date out just a little bit. We were planning on releasing later this week, but we did move it out to be able to add some additional functionality into the product. And then Rebecca, I think this one was for you. Is it possible to customize master pages and page layouts?
On the new UI or in the new UI, yes, they say it is possible using the SharePoint framework. Now, editing master pages or implementing custom master pages has its own issues that I'm sure you're aware of with the way Microsoft rolls out these updates. But they are supposed to be making changes to custom layouts and those sorts of things available with those new user interfaces. They have not been made available quite yet.
Okay. And then probably time for just one more question. Let's see. Is there SharePoint to Slack integration API? I'm guessing that one's for you. It doesn't sound like it's for me.
Let me see. I don't know for sure about integration with Slack. I would have to check and see. There's about 35 or 40 connectors available for Office 365 groups right now, and I would have to go pull a list. So if whoever asked the question wants to make sure that Mark or I have your name, I can follow up with you after the fact.
I do have the person's name, and we can. I'll share that out with you, Rebecca, and we can get back to them directly. So we are coming up on the top of the hour and the end of our time together. I very much appreciate everyone's attentiveness and for joining us today. I hope you've got a lot of value out of the content that Total Solutions, Rebecca from Total Solutions presented, and I hope you got value out of seeing the tool, the Visual SP help for Office 365. So that we will part ways. Thank you again for your attendance today. We did make a recording of the presentation, so if you're interested in getting a copy of that, we will be sending that out. And other than that, thank you again. Have a fantastic rest of your day.